All right, guys, 6 o'clock Eastern Time on July 29th. This is our weekly 1 hour get together from the law firm of Shihab Burke. My name is Sam Shihab. I'm an attorney. I practice immigration law. We spend an hour together to discuss issues. And my partner and dear friend, Brian Burke, attorney Brian Burke from Shihab Burke,
Hmm.
attorneys at law, is with us today, and we are going to talk about an interesting topic we always talk about is when the USCIS comes knocking.
Hmm.
We've talked about this a few times before. We bring it up and talk about it because we bring current events. So we encounter a scenario or situation in which we feel that it's a good refresher to talk about.
Hmm.
Brian, what do you think? How,
Yeah,
how are
well,
you first?
well,
How was your day?
I'm doing. It's Monday. The weather has cleared up. It was incredibly humid this morning, in at least in my neck of the woods when I was out tootling about. But I've been looking out the window all day. It seems to have been cleared up and stayed relatively nice. So I'm a happy camper here. Had a lovely weekend. I'm going to take tomorrow off and spend some time with my wife, or at least most of the day anyway. Do a little bit of work always, but you know, good
Nice.
times.
Yeah, I saw that time off come
Yeah.
through. So
So
that's good.
yeah, I think that, well, the topic today, a good one, always good for a refresher, is whether, what to do in the event of a site visit from USCIS.
I have
You know,
a preamble question for you,
sure.
Brian. When does USCS comes knocking? Um, Not what to do when USCIS comes knocking. So we're gonna talk about when do they come knocking? When do they come to your house or to your place of work?
Well, usually it relates to a pending case. If a case is if a case is approved, they have to have some pretty negative information, to get a site visit out of them. It's always possible. They can engage in site visits after a case is approved, and that could result in a notice of intent to revoke, for example, later. But I guess the trend right now, the last couple years, is USCIS is really kind of visiting people based upon pending cases. We see you have a pending H-1B petition, and we're doing a site visit based upon that is really the common trend right now. And I guess it's really kind of a change because historically, I think I would most likely see a site visit on an approved case, verifying, that they did good work, which, but really, I think the trend for me right now has been it's pending cases with the agency is what I'm hearing.
And kind of a more of a step back,
Okay.
Brian, for a second on this. People should know that USCIS has a very active interagency cooperation. So they sometime, if it's necessary, they would seek the U.S. Department of State's cooperation. Sometime they would reach and seek another agency's cooperation. Also, it is not limited to employment immigration.
Oh, sure.
CIS visit, USCIS visits in immigrant visa
Oh,
scenario,
family-based
both
immigration
family
visas.
and non-family. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, the reason we felt that we ought to bring it back up because we just encountered a site visitation in a employment-based adjustment of status recently.
Yes. This was shortly after somebody attended a green card interview. There
Yeah,
was
and
a
then they
follow up,
follow
an exclamation point on it all by having a USCIS officer appear at somebody's house. Um,
unannounced.
yeah, yeah. Well, announced, hey, I'm outside your house. Can I come in? You
Yeah.
know,
So site visitation happen in all sorts of scenarios. It happens to the employer, it happens to the employee, it happened to the immigrant, it happened after the approval, it happened before the approval, and it all about it really there's one common thread to me. To me,
mhm.
I'm speaking for myself. I'm not speaking for
Well, I'll,
anybody
I'll
else.
let you know if you're speaking for me too in a minute if
Yeah,
I agree with you.
it has the element of surprise,
Yeah.
and it skirts the probably the inner boundaries, not the outer boundaries of legality.
Yeah,
Maybe it is within the law, but it is not very much within the law what they're doing.
it's not within the spirit of it. I would say. I was thinking about the scenario of the gentleman who he had an interview about a month ago, and then he gets a site visit from USCIS. I don't know if they want to talk to him. If USCIS wants to talk to you, they call you in for an interview. Why are they coming back again? For me, in my mind, is to deprive you of your right to counsel.
Due process.
Yeah, if you have a scheduled interview, you can, one, call up your attorney and prepare for it. Two, choose to bring that attorney with you. If Sam, I think we're pretty good. I think we're pretty conscientious guys. I think we're really on top of our email, but I can't be available for everybody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I can't. Nobody can be prepared for that
Yeah.
that scenario.
So when I'm confronted, so this is the when USCS come knocking,
Yeah,
and I think what to do is the most important question here, and maybe we can pivot into what to do, Brian.
yeah,
What to do, and there's a lot to do, and there's a lot not to do, and it is really ultimately a judgment call.
yeah. This is very
Uh,
true. Yeah.
a judgment call on your part. You're on your own at that point. You're
All
really you're the pilot.
I would agree. These things are all judgment calls, but I guess one thing a lot of people don't know is that they have options. That you don't have to sit there and take whatever a USCIS officer gives you. Generally, there's more than one right
Sometimes you
answer.
have options. Sometimes you don't have option in
It's just,
practicality. I
I
mean,
guess, I guess it's,
so we are not going to be blindsided to the practicality of it. However, I'll tell you one thing I do, and I tell my clients to do when there is a site visitation.
mhm.
I tell them to go through the following spiel. You're surprising me. I'm not prepared. You're surprising me with this. I know you have questions to ask, and I have to try to answer, but I may not know all of it. You are the government. You are the most powerful government on earth. Not only are you the most powerful government on earth, you're the most powerful government in the history of earth.
Yeah,
I'm a single person in my home. You're in my house. So what I like to do is I'd like to kind of bring this to touch the human soul of that m- government monster,
yeah,
this government guy
yeah,
coming
yeah,
in,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and trying to break through into him as a person and tell him I am going to try to answer, but I may not be able to remember. And if I don't say I don't remember or I cannot give you this information, I mean no disrespect to you. I mean no disrespect to your
yeah. I'm
government.
gonna do my best to give you honest answers, but I'm a human being with limitations, and my answers might be, let me look into that
Yeah.
for you.
And
For
because
example,
you're so powerful and I'm so weak in my home,
yeah,
now you're making him feel embarrassed a little bit.
yeah,
In my house, in my only place of sanctuary, I'm so weak now because you're in my house now and you're the government.
yeah.
Please understand, I may not be able to answer everything,
Well,
or I
Sam,
may ask you later to give you a written reply.
Sam, you are
Yeah.
you are t- you have we're talking about all these preliminary things, and you've gotten into the substance of a meeting with USCIS. But do you have to meet with them? Do you have to accept their site visit? Can you just tell them
Well,
to buzz off, or give them a worse four letter word and say no?
yeah. So I think as we talk to this and advise our listeners,
Yeah,
I think we need to kind of say practically answer and then say legally answer. So
yeah,
people listening to us understand what we're talking about because I don't want people to confuse practicality and legality and they
yeah.
can completely conflict in the situation.
Yeah, yeah. There's lots of people
Yeah.
people
So
people
legally,
who totally comply
yeah.
with the rules and have a
So
really bad time of it.
so what I
Yeah,
just introduced to everybody is the practical side of it.
yeah,
Okay. By trying to kind of break through to that person and make him a human and making him humbled by the fact that he's so big and powerful and you're and in this and that. It doesn't work with everybody,
yeah,
but it works with some people. It works to some effect. The extent of it is on a case
yeah.
by case. But
Sure.
answering Brian's question, legally, no, right?
Yeah,
Legally, no, absolutely. You can say, I'm sorry, I'm sick. I'm sorry, my wife is sick. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. Love to
Can
do
we
it tomorrow.
can we reschedule? Can I
Yeah,
call my attorney
I
first?
yeah,
Things like that. Um, and you can do those things. And realistically, and this is again, every case is different. There's scenarios where it might be in your best interest to not talk to the government. However, practically speaking, if you're a relatively normal person with a relatively normal case, and they're coming to verify something, you're going to be talking with them, because your non-compliance, you know, it's going to come back in your face in some way. And usually, if they have bad information about you, for example, or lacking information about you, it's going to manifest in a request for evidence or notice of intent to deny. That's going to come back and say, hey, and the event of your meeting is going to be on there. Hey, we attempted to come to your house on June 9th, 2024, and you told us, you peeked out between the blinds and said, no, I'm not doing it. And meaning we couldn't get the information that we needed from you to verify that you're totally in compliance with the immigration rules and allowing us to approve the case. Now, you're probably going to have an opportunity during that RFE. You're going to have an opportunity during an RFE or a NOID, which is likely to come, to answer those things in writing. But the officer will be looking down their nose at you at this point. You've lawyered up and gotten and given the right answers now in writing versus the answers that we wanted to get from you personally. You know.
yes. So good point, Brian. 6:12 right now, and
Yeah.
we promised to go to our friends with their questions. And then
Yeah.
this topic you and I can spend 2 hours talking about
Yes,
because
we can.
we feel strongly about it,
Yeah.
about how to protect people. But as I divide this in my head,
Hmm.
there is the first thing to do is to decide to conduct the interview or not to conduct the interview. That's
Yeah.
really the first thing to do. To
Hmm.
do or not to do, to do or not to do, to interview or not to interview. That is the question, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then whatever decision you make, yes or no, what's the best practices?
Yeah.
What are the best practices? So on the, I think you've touched on whether or not to interview. If there are questions they're asking you, you have it and you have the information and you have a slam dunk case, hey, in the family case, I'm going to say, just to go out, they want to confirm that you're living with your wife and you are living together, have been
Yeah.
living together.
Come on. I mean,
Maybe she's pregnant. Yeah, you just like
yeah.
you have the
Come
information.
on in. You
Come
got. I
on
mean, in a
in. Come
family
on.
case, they'll
We're
ask you
having
to go through your house, look in your drawers, see how many. I've
with your
seen
permission.
with your permission.
With your permission
I have
only.
seen them. We
Mhm.
looked in your house and there were four. You told us you lived with your wife, and it turns out there were four toothbrushes here. For example, I've literally seen toothbrush count.
Well, Brian, I have two toothbrushes.
Yeah.
Would I get in trouble? I have an
Um,
AM one and a PM one that are different, but they're on the same side. So I may be accused of having relationships beyond my wife. I don't know. I
well,
mean, it's ridiculous, but I understand what you're saying as long as you can explain it.
yeah.
As long as you can explain it. But yes, if you have the information and it's right there,
Yeah.
yes, do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, do it. Absolutely. If you so how about if you decide to interview, Brian, decide to go forward,
Yeah.
and then halfway through, you just found yourself going down a path you are not comfortable with. You didn't know that. Can you terminate
Yes.
legally? Yes. So
Yes.
and so practically speaking, you have to make the decision by saying, "You're asking me questions I don't know answer for. I'm not comfortable. Can we continue tomorrow?" If you feel really uncomfortable, you feel really something that was sprung at you, you're absolutely unprepared for.
Yeah.
You can do that, and
Definitely.
you as long as you're polite. Now, but I think if you have the answer and if it's a straightforward case and you're not going to get in trouble, interviewing is better than not interviewing, accepting the
Sure.
interview or accepting the
Um,
visitation and
I
addressing the
Yeah, I
questions.
very rarely encounter a scenario where where I would want my client to not,
And that's probably 90% of the scenarios.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, we don't get involved, Brian, you and I, unless in that except the 10% when things get ugly. So our vision or opinion is skewed a little bit because people come to us when there's problems. People
Well,
don't come to us
yeah,
when there's no
but let's
problems.
talk about maybe again avoiding those problems as we dig delve. delve deeper into the substance of what you talk about with
Yes.
an officer. And I guess, um, what about recording? Can you record a session with that USCIS officer?
Excellent question.
Yeah,
Now, legally talking, so people
yeah,
understand. So there are two types of recording: with consent and without consent.
indeed.
Okay. So with consent, absolutely, you can just say, "Hey, I'm letting you know I'm recording, but I can guarantee you that this officer is getting out of there immediately." No
Yeah,
officer that I'm aware of, and I have done it before,
yeah,
no officer is going to be subject themselves to recording. They're just not comfortable
yeah.
with that. They have no idea what they're doing is legal or illegal. They have jobs, they're civil servants, and they
Yeah.
don't want to cross the line. They're
They don't
worried
want to
about their
get. I
rear
mean,
end.
yeah, because that recording is potentially ammunition for a guy like you or me to basically eviscerate them in an
Yeah,
annoyed or
yeah,
RFE
yeah.
response.
Unconsented, without consent, is risky business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to just think about all the different states having different rules depending upon where you are and who you are as to who can record a conversation. Is the bottom line.
Although I'm not aware of any federal law that prohibits it, and this is a federal case,
Yeah,
I would say that is to be discouraged.
yeah,
And the reason to be discouraged is just not right. You know, I mean, it's just not the right thing to do. You don't want to complicate your life unless there's a special scenario, a special circumstance. This office has been harassing you multiple times, and or something unusual, unique,
well,
especially.
yes,
So I'm not gonna say absolutely don't do it, but I'm gonna say generally discouraged.
yeah, because well, they're going to clam up, and you're going to get that going to get that RFE, and it's probably going to
Yeah,
RFE or annoyed, and it's probably not going to reflect positively upon you,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
ultimately.
Yes.
So,
So that's for the recording. Now, best practices. If you agree to be interviewed,
mhm.
would you grab a pen and paper and take notes as you discuss, Brian?
Oh, yes, definitely.
You got to do that, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about recording, and obviously, in a perfect world, you'd be able to record and get away with that. So there's never any dispute as to what was said
Yeah.
amongst you. Next
Yes.
best thing is notes created at the time of the event. You know.
We've skipped a big piece, Brian.
Oh
And I
yeah.
apologize to our listener, yes, for skipping it. You and I skipped it, we jumped right into it. Is the confirmation of the identity.
Ooh yes.
The confirmation of the identity is a big part of it. I if somebody flipped a badge on you and that's it, be careful because there's a lot of scam out there.
Yeah.
And I have had, and I know you got a lot to say, and I want you to say it, Brian. But I'll share a little story. I had one time a site visitation for a company, and these officers looked like they're coming from hell. They didn't look clean. They didn't. And about 5-10 minutes into meeting them, even though I got their business card, which is they gave me their business card and had .gov in the right email, but even the card was beat up. It just like ran through the washer or something. I was became extremely suspicious that this is something fishy going on, and I emailed them right after from my cell phone, and I got an email back and confirmed that they are in fact officers, and they were, I think, on an assignment. It was in a southern state,
Mhm.
in a
Yeah,
border
I remember
state,
this.
and they
Yeah, I
were on
remember you showed
assignments at the
showed me the
border.
card upon
Yeah,
recording it.
and therefore, yeah, they were, amazing. But yeah, you have to
Yeah.
confirm, Brian.
I mean, there are immigration scams out there. You've told me some really just fantastic stories of people just calling up on the phone saying, I'm an immigration officer, and just running people through the absolute ringer. Get a card. Ask them a card. Ask them for a card. They have it at the very least. You'll have an email address for them, and that can
Email
be
address is
used.
not enough. You have to have a badge or a
Oh yeah,
card,
sure.
Brian. You have to have a badge or a card. And if somebody throw a badge at you and puts it back, I think you just have to say politely, "I need to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
I need to take a picture of that badge. I need to know your name. You gotta know your name. You have to have a business card. If they don't have that stuff, Brian, I would absolutely recommend that you do not interview.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Legitimacy is obviously
Yeah,
very very important
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Back on taking notes
Yeah.
during the interview.
Yeah. For me, it's take notes. Just write down all the questions asked. Write down what your response is. And obviously, the officers are going to see you doing this, and if they cancel an interview, if they cancel their interview based upon that, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah,
Is
you
is the
got to
bottom line?
protect yourself. You cannot be just completely
Yeah,
subject to their, because they are going to write a report.
yeah.
Because what I will be asking you to do is the moment the
You as the attorney who hears from a client who said, "Hey, I was just visited by USCIS," right?
well, is to email a summary,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But I would wait. I mean, if you have an attorney, I would wait 24 hours to run your answers by the attorney first. Here's what I said. Here's what he said. Do you have any problem with it?
yeah,
Hey, there's no problem. Then you shouldn't email to them because you get their card and say, hey, yesterday you met with me. These are my notes. Were taken contemporaneous with the meeting that was held yesterday. As you notice, I was taking notes. These are my notes, and here's my. If your information that you have conflict with the information I just gave you, please let me know right away so we can
yeah.
get it resolved.
Creating those records is good. Even just taking your own personal records. Just keeping a log of. I mean, a lot of things we do in immigration, and we advise people to keep logs, keep records. It's for your personal records. It's on this date I was visited by this guy on USCIS. I to
Yeah,
make a copy of it. Make an official record. Find a way to get a date stamp. Send it through email to your spouse. Something like that.
yeah,
Make it a little bit more legitimate and believable. Essentially.
yes.
Yeah.
A lot of USCIS officers and some of them are contractors are extremely knowledgeable with your rights and respect your rights.
Mhm.
A lot of them don't.
Yeah.
And that's a reality. And hopefully, you get one of those guys who are, or maybe some of them don't. Maybe a little bit more fair statement. Some of them don't. A lot of them do. And if you get one of those guys that does not respect your right, you have to protect yourself.
Yeah. I have a couple more things on the list, Sam. Uh,
Yep.
what if you don't know an answer to a question? When was the last time you worked for company ABC?
Yeah. And you have to say, I don't know. And he's gonna say, what year? He's gonna try to pin you down.
Yeah.
How many months ago? Come on, you remember?
Yeah.
And you need to hold the line. I can't
Yeah.
remember. I don't want to guess. You're asking me to guess. This is not something that's good for me to guess and give you wrong information, because they will press you on this on some time to get an answer from you. And if you started by saying I don't remember, you gotta just stick with that.
Yeah. They love an inconsistency because, well, if they have records from company A that your last day was on January 12th, 2024, and you said your last day was on, whatever, May 12th,
February.
2024.
About
Yeah.
February, they're gonna drop the word about, and they're gonna say, "Well, you said February."
Well, yeah, and they will drop these things. And kind of on the same note, Sam. So I guess, what are your options? It's I can look into that for you and send you an answer to that. If it via email, okay. Can I check my records for that information, essentially, because they will
And
go ahead.
and be aware. This is true story. This is not something I'm making up. Be aware. Yeah, you go ahead, check your record, and then you open your laptop and you're looking at it, and all of a sudden, they're next to you. Their face in your laptop and their finger on your keyboard. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Click, click, click. And now,
Yeah, yeah. Now
now they're
they're using.
reading your
Yeah,
laptop without your permission. So be very careful not to fall for that. Don't turn your computer on in front of them and start browsing it. Their head is going to go inside that monitor, some of them, and
yeah.
that's not a good thing for you.
Yeah. I guess my last thing that I wanted to bring up is sometimes USCIS officers will, they want to shore up their case and they want to have you sign something, a sworn statement like an affidavit or something. And I mean, it's up to you. You're the person who's there, whether or not you sign something that they give you in the end. But ultimately, for me, is make sure what you sign. If you're signing something that's given to you by USCIS, make sure it's accurate. Don't because sometimes I've been with clients. Interviews is where this happens a lot. Is they'll have you, say, write me a signed statement, outlining, they'll write it for you. They'll have you a signed statement. They'll say, here's a statement. I want you to sign it. And odds are that officer only paid attention to about 25% of what you said. And in the 75, the 25% he listened to, well, he put it in his own words that aren't really accurate. If you're signing something, don't sign something unless it's accurate. Bottom line, you can change these things. Um, they will use what you sign against you. We have heard countless stories of, you signed a statement at your interview saying XYZ. Sworn statement, we got you. You know?
Yes, so people understand in context, and then we'll jump into taking questions. People, so they understand the context. So, for example, in a legal proceeding,
Yeah.
let's assume there's a deposition. A deposition is a session which two attorneys get together with the clients, and each attorney have their questions to ask the opposing party with the presence of the other um, attorney, and also there is a court recorder. This court recorder is typing, and they are certified as for their ability to type in a high level of accuracy. Okay, two things you have to understand. Number one, there is no such person. This INS officer probably types 40 words a minute, and 25 of his typing has typos in it,
Mhm.
and a lot of technical terms will go over his head. And this is, again, this is not, I'm making up. This is what we
Oh,
experience.
yes.
That's number one. Number two, in a deposition, in a legal setting, once the documents is created, you know what happens? Nobody signs anything. No one signs anything.
Mm.
When there's about a week for that record to be printed, and then sends out to both parties, and attorneys review them, and then they communicate and say, I want to correct this, I want to correct that, I want to correct this, I want to clarify this. And then you create these documents clarifying things, and then everybody signs.
Yeah.
Here, you're deprived of all these things on a matter that affects your future, your life in this country. You don't have a court recorder. You don't have the opportunity to carefully review. So you have to be very nervous about signing these documents, and very uncomfortable just by the procedure that was presented to you, which is no right to reasonably review, no right for an attorney to look at this
Yeah.
document
Yeah.
to tell you, are you kidding me? I remember this doesn't make any sense what you're saying, etc. So if you have to, I mean, I cannot encourage you to sign, but you're under a lot of pressure to sign. If you have to sign, I try to assign not under oath, and I'll add a statement, say, I'm signing very quickly, I haven't had a chance to review this carefully. Or you can tell the officer, can you leave this for me, I can sign it and send it to you tomorrow, I want to carefully
Yeah.
review it,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
I guess the last thing I'd say, this is just a sort of a good thing in that statement or in talking to the officer, is be truthful. When you are telling the truth, when you are telling, I can know so many times, Sam, that I've, read a statement that says, okay, where I said, I ended up telling somebody, okay, well, the actual facts as they weren't a terrible problem for me. We could have explained what's going on here in a way that would likely be accepted as compliant with the law. But when you are untruthful, you open a Pandora's box of problems for yourself, essentially opening yourself to allegations of fraud and misrepresentation, which can basically ruin any immigration process.
Opportunity. So
Yeah,
two things, I'll leave everybody. 6:29. I will
yeah,
do it in less than 30 seconds. Number one, get a copy of what you sign. Get
sure,
a copy of what you sign. Very important. You have to.
sure,
Number two, uh, um, here's a scenario in which not being surprised at an interview without counsel, they flag a document that's 20 years old at you, about something happened at the consulate, and they say, uh, "Isn't did you not tell the officer this and that?" And the person is thrown off, and he goes, "Well, I think I did." And they say, "Well, this is a lie, isn't it?" "Well, yeah, probably wasn't truthful." "Okay, so you committed fraud." "Well, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to." "Well, it's okay. Go ahead and sign here that you committed fraud, and you told a lie to the officer on that day. Sign here." And you're in the matter of shock. You sign. Your green card is dead. And this could have been easily resolved by saying, I'm not signing. I don't remember. It's been 20 years ago. I need time, because 100% there are opportunity to rectify. Maybe the misrepresentation is not material.
Yeah.
Maybe there's an explanation to it
Yeah.
that you were not given an opportunity to do. So you got to be very careful and cautious when they're asking you to sign. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
I hope we gave you guys get your antenna up on when and what to do when USCIS comes knocking.
Yeah.
Now we're going to start taking your questions. That's the fun part.
Yes.
And just remember, we don't have all the facts about your case, so don't rely on any answer to make a decision on your case. Obviously, you're a smart guy, you're an adult, you're not going to do that. And just be aware there's no attorney client relationship established, because we're talking here through a question on the internet via whatever media that you're using. Be that as it may, Brian, let's take the first one.
Yeah, here's a question from Paul that is not amongst the kind of questions we usually get, which means I'm all on board. So I have switched my case to London, still waiting for an interview after 3 months in EB2. CR1s are getting interviews with DQ dates 6 weeks after my case switch. What can I do to get to get IL priority date August 2022? What do you think that IL means, Sam?
I'm trying to think. Can I get that?
Well, the bottom line is, as I'm seeing it, is hey, people in other categories are getting green card interviews faster than me in this employment based interview scenario, and it sounds like he's just trying to get to that interview.
Well, number
And
one, London is a very busy place.
yeah,
London Consulate is a super busy place. Not also a super busy place, exactly, not exactly the place that are, because they're busy, I guess, they're just quite dismissive sometimes.
yeah,
So that's one issue there, kind of general statement. The second thing is, clearly, whenever you have a consulate switch, there's a delay.
yeah.
Brian, anything you can add to that?
Yeah, no, no, I see what you're saying. No, I missed that part of it there. Yes, yes. Delays switching causes delays. I mean, they don't have a clear published policy on these things, but anytime on any type of case, be it family or employment, somebody wants to change consulates, we will warn them that, first of all, that process takes a long time, right? And second of all, you know, they have some sort of queue system, and one has to wonder, do you take the same place in the queue where you were at somebody else, or do you go back to the end of the queue and get behind everybody else who was already in line, even though they may have been documentarily qualified later than you? You just got here. You're late to the party. We're all in line for some hummus, and I'm getting hungry, Sam. It's late in the day, and I don't care if you got a ticket before us, where we were here in line before you.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line there. So,
Yeah.
what can somebody do in this scenario, Sam?
I mean, contact the visa office, send emails. I mean, basically be a pain
Yeah, squeaky
in a
wheels.
polite way.
Yeah, squeaky wheels do get grease. I guess if the wait becomes cartoonishly long, you can start talking about a mandamus action. But honestly, I very rarely hear of somebody who has to wait a terribly long time for an employment base. Usually, it's the family cases where the consulate gets concerned whether they not really believe the relationship is legitimate, that sort of thing. Whereas we're really forced to wait a long time there. But I mean, that's the nuclear option on that is the mandamus action in the end. But fundamentally, I mean, if you're being sponsored by an employer, Paul, they're going to probably have counsel that are going to help you with that and evaluate whether that's realistic. I mean, I guess they can always contact Congress people, on your behalf, move my case forward that way. But ultimately, with matters of the consulate, I'd say you're in the queue until they say otherwise. Bottom line there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I
from
think I
MG,
want to throw in one last comment.
please.
In the scheme of delays that you and I have been seeing at consulates,
Yeah.
um, a 3 month delay is not outrageous relatively.
Yeah.
Relatively, I have a client who I think he's going to end up having a heart attack, because I think he got like a 2 weeks delay and he's about to blow a gasket. And I think this guy is going to have to need some intervention, because 4 or 5 months delay is what we see.
I
I
think I know
mean,
who you're talking about. I have an idea, and perhaps a
yeah,
fiance case, Sam. Yeah, yeah. I gotcha. Yeah. You're right. 3 months is not. Usually, I would say, when do you get expected to get a consular interview? When you're ready to go, when they're documentally qualified, about 6 months is, I
yeah,
would say, sometime under
normal,
6 months is where most of them
yeah.
get. So from MG, if an I-45 has been pending for over 18 months and becomes current post retrogression, from your experience, how much time does it take USCIS to approve the petition, assuming the priority date stays current? So, what I'm hearing is sort of a long pending case,
Well,
right?
the I-45 has been pending for over 18 months, so that's
But
basically beyond the normal processing time of an adjustment of status, or close to it.
yeah, I'd say that's probably with right about the normal time processing time of
Yeah,
adjustment status, varying
yeah,
based upon the local office or what office is handling it.
yeah.
But this scenario MG puts out here is and becomes current post retrogression. So at some point they were during this 18 months they were retrogressed, and now they're current.
Respectfully, that's
Yeah,
irrelevant because the processing time is a processing time to get to the case.
yeah,
Whether it's retrogressed or not, at least from the way they do business, not, I mean, I understand the retrogression
yeah.
piece, but from the way they do business, um, is no impact. It's going to be like any other case.
I mean, I'm well. I'm going to posit a scenario for you, Sam, and
Mhm.
maybe I'm going to bring you to. I'm going to try to bring you to my side. So,
Sure.
the MG's case is there, and then the dates retrogress, and they put that case up on a shelf. Well, Sam, do they put it on the shelf? Do they process cases while you're retrogressed? Do they work on them at all?
No, when they're retrogressed, normally they don't because they're so overwhelmed.
But I mean, some people
Um,
get interviews.
You know, yeah, well, that is interesting, right? So some people do get interviews, so there is attempts to do that.
Yeah.
There are attempts. There's that vision to do that, but I don't think it's as consistent.
Yeah, I guess I would say the best case while you're if you with a 18 months of pending on an I-45 is they get your case absolutely ready to go, and they say, "Oh, I can't approve," so you put it up on a shelf. And I guess maybe the question for me is, well, how long does it take them to figure out that your priority date is current again, so they can actually look at it and make any updates and make a decision on the case? And the bottom line is, it varies greatly. I have seen people, as soon as, dates within their priority date coming up, and then there's certain people out there who will email and say, Brian, what can I do to make this move faster? Because, well, because I want it to. And I've been waiting long enough. And that's when you start talking about, how can you poke that beast to, what can you do to get your case in front of an officer again, essentially.
And there are things you can do to do that.
Yeah.
And just waiting and for them to just act on it is not a good idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we have the dates for filing and we have the final action date.
Yeah.
And the idea is that once the date for filing hits, they should start bringing these cases off the shelf, dusting them off, assigning them to officers,
Mhm.
and officers should be beginning to look at them. So when and inquire, right,
Yeah.
about them with RFEs or whatever, such that when you hit the final action date, that green card is
And you
sent to you through a speedy USPS service to your house, and
Sam,
you live
you're
happily
really
ever
painting
after.
some evocative images. People wearing nice suits and handing off cases and saying, "There you are, colleague. Go ahead, process this case and make
Yeah.
another American for us." You
Yes.
know? Yeah,
Yes. In reality, that does not happen.
yeah,
In reality, the system is broke.
yeah,
USCIS hides the processing time. They issue reports about 80% of the cases handled within certain time, and they do all kind of things, and they move cases around. I don't think cases get assigned at the final action date. I think there's a so overwhelmed and backlogged.
yeah,
And you have to take the bull by the horn to make progress on your
yeah.
case.
This isn't something.
In
I'm sorry, Sam.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
This isn't something that's a really new phenomenon, because I'm thinking, back, 10 years ago, we would be sending, letters on individuals' behalf to USCIS once their priority date becomes current again. We'd call them adjudication letters, saying, hey, my priority date is current again. Please, make
Is
a decision.
advice, yeah.
Yeah.
Please move the case. So you need to start doing that. You just cannot just wait.
Yeah.
All right.
Sam, what do you?
Yes. Ratchet. Traveling back to USA on a valid H1, H4 visa stamp. Looks like back with the family. Stamps, I'm assuming. What happened to point of entry I-94 if my renewal application approved after I returned to USA? Will point of entry I-94 going to be overridden by the new I-797 I-94 updated validity date? Yes. That's a pretty straightforward answer. Brian, you gave me an easy one. So what happened is that they create this electronic I-94 for you, and then when you have the I-94 that's mailed to you, it overtakes that I-94, especially if it's received
Yeah,
after in time.
yeah.
It's
Well,
very simple.
I'm going to maybe add some clarifying bits to here. So
Sure.
the rules generally are if you have a pending change of status and you travel, your request for an I-94 in that change of status request goes away. But if you travel while an extension of stay is pending, say an H-1B extension, they will still honor that when you return while you travel. So the scenario you're describing is I get a I-94 at the point of entry. Then hypothetically, a week later they approve the case. Yeah, that's going to be the I-94. That's it's going to control. Generally speaking, though, I mean the devil's in the details, and I would always look at the documents in hand once you get them. I wouldn't be content about the scenario until I have the documents in hand. Is the bottom line.
Yeah. So, but if you have an H1B
Yeah.
and you're applying for an H1B extension,
Yep.
and your spouse and children are on H4
Yeah.
and they're applying for H4 extensions,
Yep.
and that's what I think is a straightforward
Yeah.
case. The new I-94 is received after your entry to the United States, whether an H-1B I-94, whether an H-4 I-94 overtake the
Yeah.
other ones.
Yeah. Generally, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, I think I'm going to take it. You called that one easy, Sam. I'm going to take this one from Vlakshmi 2. Can a green card holder work multiple full-time jobs at the same time? Yes.
Absolutely, yes. Now, the only thing that you have to be careful with is whether or not you're violating company rules and regulations.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so that's the only thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you sign an agreement with an employer to, devote your full time and you're not supposed to take work on the side, sure. But, the general rule is in immigration doesn't care once you are a permanent resident. I guess there's some talk, Sam, about, if you get your green card through employment, you're always you should be joining that sponsoring employer on a full time basis, but there's nothing that stops you from doing more.
So we don't want to get into issues outside immigration law.
Yeah.
But this question really, multiple full-time employment deals with issues outside immigration law. As a green card holder, you can do whatever you want to
Yeah,
do.
you can do nothing. You can
Yeah.
yeah.
In a full-time job, and multiple full-time job is dealing with the state law, dealing with employment policies, employer policies, or employment contract you may sign or may not have signed.
Yeah.
So those are critical issues that you have to become familiar with outside
Yeah.
immigration law.
I think I would be most concerned about running afoul of whatever your agreement is with your employer and risk getting terminated from one due to the fact that you're working for two. And probably both frankly if they figure out you're cheating on them as it were. Yeah.
Nobody said anybody's cheating, Brian,
It's not.
but that's okay. I
I'm
understand.
using a metaphor.
Yeah.
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 Ramesh A. My priority date is April 24th, 2012. My
Very soon.
IR-45 is out of processing time. Okay. Open multiple service requests. However, USCIS has not adjudicated. Also, I tried Congressman way, but no use. What are other options? So 2012 April
So
24th. What's the priority date? I don't know whether it's EB1 or EB2, but we can guess this very quickly.
Yeah,
Um,
April 24th, 2012, and I'm going to pull the August visa bulletin because why not? August final action dates are for final action dates for India. I'm going to presume India based upon EB2 is in July of 2012. EB3 is October 2012 for August. So several months current.
prior to, yeah,
Yeah,
both,
yeah,
either.
yeah,
So, well, so USCIS recommendation is that they must adjudicate the case within 180 days is the recommended timeline. Although, when we track cases and court decisions, they give them some leeway.
yeah.
Is the 180-day timeline is from the priority date being current, Brian?
Unclear is the bottom line. It's a suggestion in the law that says they should adjudicate benefits in 180 days. But I mean, you're dancing around what I always think about in this scenario. If your green card was filed in October 2020, and it's been pending for almost 4 years at this point, but if they haven't had the opportunity to adjudicate it until now, and that wouldn't be accurate for the record considering this your party date
I
was
don't think
October.
that argument can fly. You would agree with me, probably. I think if this case has been retrogressed
Yeah,
and it's been open for several months,
yeah,
you can add up the money months before that's been open and did not adjudicate in this month. And my rule of thumb is, you have a better case of going through the written mandamus, since that's what we're talking about.
hmm,
If this case has been 18 months or more. Now, less than 18 months, you may lose the mandamus case if it's litigated, but it may be enough for a settlement. So you need to discuss this. Your option under mandamus really is what you're really referring to. That's really the only thing left.
yeah,
With an attorney that looks at the history of the case, we file a lot of these, and more so in recent times, both in family and employment context.
indeedy.
Um, and the question becomes: Is this a good case to file under mandamus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, for me, I would be thinking a lot about when did your party date become current again, and how long has it been since then. I mean, I'm looking through the visa bulletin while you were talking there, Sam, and in EB3 that date was current in June, and I suspect it's going to be current in May and April as well, and that's quite a while. I'm gonna go all the way back to April. I want to go back to March. I'm gonna go crazy, for this person. And final action dates that was been current in EB3 for since at least March, and that's when that's been
It's
quite
4 months.
some time ago. I mean, one thing I don't know all the actions Ramesh is taking, but I would think have you sent a letter to them? Have you sent them a reminder that your priority date is current? Sometimes simple options
Have
work.
you gone through counsel? Because sometimes I think it helps a little bit.
This is true. Yeah,
A little bit helps. Send the letter by, if you're sending a letter yourself,
yeah,
it may not get the attention, unfortunately.
yeah,
I mean, those are the options you have, to push it forward before it retrogress again, because we all know
yeah.
that retrogression, it's if it's not happening today, it's happening tomorrow.
That's the best part of that's the upside of the mandamus in this scenario. I've been current 2 times, and I don't know if it's going to regress again, but I don't want to be fooled a third time, essentially.
And I've been waiting for 12 years.
Yeah, on top, yeah, obviously on top of that, yeah,
I've been waiting for 12 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Explorer Dreamer, I have EB2 485 pending with priority date current. Reaching out to Congressman, does it really help? Is the system influenced by a call from senators to USCIS? And this maybe there's follow up here. I'm not sure. With employer A, have EB2 I-45 and downgraded to EB3. Both with employer A now changed to employer B. Is okay. Separate question. Well, as in the experience of Ramesh, congressmen aren't worth the suits they walk around in. So there's that. Um, can a congressman help? Yes, it's possible.
Some do,
Some do. Yeah.
many don't.
Yep.
And some will not even talk to you, will not
Yeah.
even take it. Some anti-immigration council members of our great Congress,
They'll give you some
uh,
lip service, and
they will not even know. They don't even have a process to talk to you. I've encountered that in certain states
mm,
where we're not talking about immigration. This is not something that we do here in this office. But some do, and some of them are stronger. And it really depends on the competency of the immigration liaison in their office, how strong, weak, motivated they are, or otherwise not motivated. That is really what comes down to. The congressman himself or herself, or congresswoman herself, will not be involved
Yeah,
unless it's an important case and you're an important person. In which case they might be involved.
yeah.
But yeah, hit and miss. Uh, I'd give it usually 20%, 1 out of 5.
It is worth doing. It's free. Most Congress people have a page on their website where they say need assistance with a government agency. Complete a form online. You could have it before done. Explorer Dreamer done before this stream is over. You know.
The USCIS has a person or an office dedicated to communicating with Congress individuals,
Mhm.
men and women, congressmen, congresswomen. So there's they talk to each other. They have because they get so many requests, and that they will inquire about the case and find out what's going on, and then get back to you. Uh, to the extent that there is a major unfairness or a screw up or somebody's overlooking something big time, it can be corrected sometimes. So that path, as Brian said, it's worth pursuing. It doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
You should try it, I think.
Yeah. Sort of a separate question from Explorer Dreamer. With employer A, have EB245 and downgraded to EB3, both with employer A. Now in change to employer B, 45 is 45J mandatory immediately,
Or
or
wait for an RFE.
wait for an RFE?
It is not mandatory immediately per USCIS's policy.
Yeah,
No, it is not.
yeah. Um, I don't know. I'm the person who would probably submit it early myself. But I mean, they say, and I believe they say in their own instructions for Supplement J that you can, or it's either that or the 4085 itself, that you can submit it, in the event of an RFE and an interview or whenever you want. So there you go.
If your priority date is many years down the road, it's less
Yeah.
um, of an issue. The only thing is you have to be aware of is if you don't have the I think going through your attorney and submitting supplement J now and getting copies of that helps you get a handle on your paperwork. So it gives you kind of a, uh, a test case. Do I have my labor certification job description? Do I not have it? Do I have a copy of my labor certification? Do I need to get it?
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it now, and let's say 6 7 years from now you're trying to do it, and the employer that filed your first application or the attorney that did it has now evaporated, and you don't have these documents, you're in trouble,
Yeah.
and you're not going to be able to do a supplement J. So for me, doing it now and making sure that you have copies of everything now is a good, healthy practice.
Well, you said, Sam, in the event your priority date isn't current, I'd say if your priority date is current, might be a way to knock your case loose.
Yes.
Typically when your priority date becomes current, your case has been sitting for a while. That's when you might get RFEs saying, "Whoa, give us a supplement J from your current employer." Well, you might be able to sidestep such an RFE and say, "Hey guys, my priority date's current. I have a new job. Prove my case because you can."
Yep.
You know, you know. Uh, from
Raid El Sharif. I am an
yes.
F1 student and I am eligible for DED, deferred enforced departure. Um, shall I keep going to college or can I stop going? DED for Lebanese. So it's been a while since I looked at the deferred enforced
Well,
departure
well,
rules.
well, Sam, I'll tell you. I'm looking at there's a deferred and enforced departure page from USCIS that
Mhm.
says on July 26, 2024, President Biden issued a memorandum on deferred enforcement departure for certain Lebanese nationals to the Secretaries of State and Homeland Security, authorizing DED employment authorization for 18 months. I think there's been a change, a big old change that there is the bottom line.
Do you continue studying? Um, well, I can tell you one thing. My honest answer
Mhm.
is I don't think a deferred enforced departure Well, there's two things here going on, Brian.
Yeah.
I don't think a deferred enforced departure um, can survive a Trump administration
Great point.
with their immigration policies. However, there's another challenge. You get work authorization, you're on a student visa. The moment you work on that EAD card, you're no longer on F1 visa and cannot get back without leaving the country.
Yeah.
So for me, um, obviously, if you can afford and able to continue to study, trust me, that's the path for you, my friend. Because if you're able to get a college degree, whether you're on a bachelor program or a master's program, all these deferred documents and programs and TPS, they're not going to help you during difficult time when there's going to be possibly cancellation of these programs.
Yeah. I mean, my default low-level immigration attorney answer is, if you can maintain your status in the United States, maintain your status in the United States, because so many future benefits that you might claim will require you to maintain status in the United States. That's that. I mean, hypothetically, it sounds like you're going to college right now. You are on your way to a degree. I'm not hearing any problems with it. And if you get a degree, if you're looking for employment-based sponsorship and want to apply for a green card in the United States, generally speaking, you have to be maintaining your status in the country. And leaving behind your student status is something that would, you know, be a problem for me for about 10 different reasons. Yeah.
Just be aware that um, um, there is a fact sheet. It's not permanent. It's for a specific time frame. Only the president of the United States can do it. Um, Nothing. You don't have to apply for anything. Um, and we have definitely a President Biden, who is not going to be the president of the United States in 6 months.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yeah.
So all those things that he's doing are wonderful things that he's doing, but I would take it with a grain of salt. I would be very cautious right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Just a brief comment, which I will take from a tool. Great topic. Makes me think of investing in a Nest doorbell now. All right. All right. There's an outside chance with the Venn diagrams of people who get visited by USCIS and those, those who have Nest doorbells, you could be the guy who it works for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a great question, I think. How accurate are USCIS processing times? The advanced parole I-130 times are insane across most service centers. First stuck in H-1B for 15 years, party that becomes current, stuck in AP EAD for 10 years. Such a helpless situation we folks have been in. So,
Yes, Venkat. I'm sorry about how you feel. Um, I'm assuming I'm the kind of person that have to look at the positive of everything. Otherwise, I cannot live. You put yourself in the negative side of any deal, your life is hell. I mean, obviously, decade and a half, you've done well here. I know you should do better. Probably build a family. Your kids are well adjusted. They go to college or school or high school here. They have a great life. But patience, my friend. That's the only thing I have. Brian.
yeah, well, I'll comment on the specifics of USCIS processing times. Well, hopefully for you, Venkat, that means you have a current priority date, which means it's just a matter of time. We talked a lot during the session about things you can do to sort of push this process forward and keep at them. Squeaky wheels get grease. Congress people write a letter, send them a new supplement J, find a way to knock your case loose. I would say, if you have a My USCIS account, don't abide by the processing times that are in there. Clients come to me all the time. They say, they said they're actively working my case, and I expected a result in about 5 weeks, and then it goes up till 3 months, and then it goes backwards and up and down. I would generally trust the ones posted on the main USCIS website. Check my processing times a lot more than what you see in individual your personal USCIS portal. So maybe take one last question here, Sam, to
Sure,
wrap it up,
absolutely. Yep.
and sort of a follow up from Paul. So it's a good way. It means we made it through everybody, most everybody, if we're coming back to sort of follow ups. Just a follow up. I've been waiting in Abu Dhabi for 6 months and been told they're currently at 18 months for interviews. Hence my switch. I was accepted with a new case number for London in May. However, still waiting for an interview when people with documentally qualified 6 weeks later, EB2 national interest waiver, and don't have employer or attorney. Why are CR1 prioritized over employment based? So CR1, I can give you. This is me having to double check in Google. CR1 is spouses of a United States citizen. I can tell you that U.S. immigration favors U.S. citizens greatly, and that's that. I guess is the bottom line. Somewhere out there's a person who can spin the tail to their congressperson of, I'm deprived from my wife, the mother of my children, my husband, my love of my life. And those scenarios are useful to us in immigration cases for, say, going to court, for example.
Not for London specifically, but we've represented people who have had CR1 cases pending for more than 3 years at consulates.
Yeah.
And we had to take them to court to resolve them. And
Yeah.
they were resolved. So CR1s also are getting bad treatment all over the world. It's just a situation where the consulates are not able to keep up with the demand, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
With that, it's 7:03. Hopefully, we're able to answer a few of your questions. Come back Monday, 6 o'clock, and talk to Brian and Sam from